What's going on, everybody? My name is Nate. This is My Outlook. This is the channel where I'm pretty much going to be giving my outlook on different stuff, right? So today I got a couple words for all my veterans and active duty members that are going to be submitting a VA disability claim pretty soon here in the near future. Just a couple things that you guys should probably consider before submitting that claim. Before I get into all of that, I just want to make sure you guys know that I am not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal or medical advice. And aside from my VA disability rating, I have no affiliation with the VA whatsoever. So as always, before you guys submit anything, before you guys take anything, make sure you guys do your own research and fact check everything before you guys submit your claim to make sure that you guys have the best chance of getting the most favorable rating possible. All right, so that's the whole purpose of this video. If not, you're gonna run yourself into the risk of getting your claims denied, and you're gonna be potentially shooting yourself in the foot for things that you could avoid by just having some basic knowledge. All right, so getting into that, first and foremost, I want to make sure you guys know that before you guys submit any type of claims, make sure you guys are being honest with these claims, right? The VA is backed up and backlogged as it is, without people submitting false claims, and pretty much your claim is probably not going to see any type of light of day or get any type of traction anyway if you don't have substantial evidence to back it up. So you want to make sure you guys are being honest with these claims, and you guys want to make sure you guys are submitting these things with integrity, okay? Don't be submitting false claims. It's not going to work in your favor. And even if it does, at some point, they're going to find out, and you're going to have to pay all of that money back. And if you've already spent that money, that's going to be, pretty difficult for you. So you just want to make sure you avoid any type of, activities like that. All right. So everything here is I'm speaking is from my own opinions based off of my own VA claims process. What makes me qualified to speak on this? For me, I think that I got out. I'm an 8-year Navy veteran. I got out in 2018 August. By 2019 April, I was rated at 90%. If anybody who's already gone through the VA process know, that was a very, very quick process. Going from less than a year, getting all the way to 90%. You got veterans that are out there that's been, out for years, 20, 30 years that, are still trying to look for increases or even get rated as it is. So, to go from pretty much zero to getting out to 90% in less than a year, that's lightning fast. So that's what I feel like I can speak on it, because I feel like, there are certain things that I did that I think helped speed along my process that I want to share with you guys, so that you guys could probably mirror that and possibly get similar outcomes, if not better, or at least get most favorable outcome, as opposed to not knowing this information and submitting it and getting whatever the VA gives you. Because I'll tell you right now, the VA will give you whatever they give you, if they give you anything at all. So you want to make sure that you're thorough, and you want to make sure that you're on top of everything before you submit those claims to the VA. All right? So without further ado, let's get into the video. Peep it. All right, veteran, I'm gonna get to you guys in just a minute, but right now I want to speak to all of my active duty service members, particularly the ones who are getting ready to get out and know that they're going to submit for a VA disability claim, right? So I say right now, my suggestion, if you have anywhere from 6 months, 3 months to 6 months left on your contract, you want to be making sure that you're getting all your medical records and everything intact. And I say that for the active duty service members, because you're still you still have base access, you still can go to records and make sure that all your records and stuff is up to date. If not, once you're out, you may not be able to get on base so easily, if at all. And then now you have to play that game of mailing records and seeing how long, and playing that game. Even if you get your records back, it may not be everything that you requested. So the best thing is, if you're active duty right now, is to make sure you're hitting medical, hitting dental, and making sure that all your procedures and everything that you went in there and claimed is not claimed, but everything that you went in there for is actually inside of your medical record. Because if it's not, once you get out, you try to claim it. If it's not in your medical record, it's going to be that much harder for you to try to claim it as, you know, for a disability rating. Because the VA requires 3 things for you guys before they actually give you a rating. And those things is going to be a diagnosed condition, injury, or, you know, any type of condition really that's diagnosed by the doctor. They have to make sure that event happened in service, like so while you were under your active duty contract. And third, they have to connect the two to make sure that disability rating is actually, or that injury is actually affecting you negatively. So you want to make sure that all of that stuff is in your medical record. So obviously, if you're not on top of that stuff and it's not in your medical record, it's going to be very difficult for you to prove that actually happened. And now I really want to talk to the active duty service members, because right now you guys are in, and I know right now where you guys are in, there's different things that are weighing on you. You know, you may not be thinking about when you get out and the VA process, right? But you should be, especially if you have less than 6 months left. You know, you really want to be thinking about that if you know you're going to be submitting for something. But say for instance, right, you're in the service and you hurt your back, and you know it's a real injury, but maybe your LPO, your supervisor, you know, they're encouraging you not to go. Man, just walk it off. You know, you're not that bad. Or, you know, they may ostracize you for going, or call you a weakling, or for whatever reason you're not going to go to medical because you want to be that team player for your unit. That's not going to help you out. So when you get out and you have this injury that actually happened, you actually have this back injury. Now you don't have anything that's in your record that shows that you actually went, or that injury actually happened, because you're a tough guy, you're a team player, and you didn't want to go to medical, or you got convinced to not go to medical. So now you don't have that in your medical record. So when you go to file for a VA claim, VA is going to look and say, hey, where'd that happen at? You're not going to have it in your medical record, and therefore you're going to get denied. Because like I said, VA requires 3 things of you. They have to make sure something is diagnosed. How is it going to be diagnosed if you never went to medical, right? They have to make sure that the event happened while you're under your active duty contract, right? Again, if it's not in your medical record, how can they prove that ever happened, you know? And then they can't tie the 2 together. So you got to make sure you're going to medical. If you're not going to medical, you're essentially shooting yourself in the foot, right? And when you get out, the only thing you can really rely on is, to my veterans here, if you hadn't gone to medical and you actually have conditions that really happen, really all you can do is rely on buddies to write you a buddy letter, and pretty much swear that they know that you had a condition that happened while you were in service, and they served with you, they know that it happened, and they can explain, you know, in VA language pretty much how that affected you. It doesn't necessarily have to be in VA language, but still they have to make sure they explain to the VA that the injury that you're claiming did happen, and that if you were affected by it and how you were affected by it, you know. And that's not even going to be really concrete evidence, because it's going to still be someone's word essentially against your lack of evidence, you know. So if you actually do go to medical, you're going to have that stamped in your medical record, or you're going to have that event in your medical record that says, hey, this sailor, Marine, soldier, whoever, right, went to medical for this reason. So you're going to have that in there. So right now the VA can't even deny that, because you have it right there in your medical record saying, hey, you went to medical for a back injury. The back injury was an event that happened because you were doing something, you know, while you're in service, or, you know, something that actually injured your back. And so now you have that in your medical record. So when the VA is going through everything, you're claiming that, and they can actually find that, right? Makes sense. If you're saying that it happened, they want to be able to see that actually happened, so they can see the severity of it and see how they could pay you out if, you know, your injury warrants VA compensation. So you want to make sure that you're actually going to medical. If you're not going to medical, you're killing yourself. You know, everybody's worked with civilians inside of the military at some point, usually guys who have some type of rating, maybe not a favorable rating, and they'll tell you right then and there that the VA process was it was painful, it was difficult, it was not an easy process. And so veterans still get out and assume that somehow, some magical way, that their claim is going to be that magical claim that the VA takes all the way to the top. And that's just not how it happens. Like, the VA is not going to do you any favors, especially if you're not doing yourself any favors by being diligent and getting into the books and knowing how to help the VA help you out. So if you just file like a generic claim and assume that the VA is going to help you out with your claim, it's not going to happen. So you want to make sure that you're getting inside of those books and that you're making sure that you for one, know how the VA claims process work, how the VA work, how they think, and then for two, play their game. You want to play their game. You want to give them the information the way that they read the information, and you want to make sure that you're showing up to anything that they're requiring of you that's going to essentially push your claim further along in the process, because it is a waiting game. It is a process. So things that's going to help you out is going to be planning, it's going to be strategy, it's going to be patience, because without those three things, you're going to be either frustrated, or you're going to misstep somewhere because you're going to be impatient and you're going to make a mistake and you're going to get your claim denied. This is really one of those things where it's like, do it right and you do it light, and if you don't do it if you do it the wrong way, it's going to take you forever to keep doing it, because they're going to keep denying it. You're going to have to either, resubmit, you're going to have to appeal, you're going to have to do something that's going to either prolong the process even longer, or just outright deny you. So you want to make sure you get this stuff right the first time. And a lot of things that I see where veterans go wrong is they simply don't listen, or they don't pay attention to how the VA words things and how it works, right? So for one, know your eligibility and know where you stand within the VA, right? As far as submitting a VA disability claim. So you are able to submit a VA disability claim if you have a other than dishonorable discharge, meaning that if you have any other discharge aside from a dishonorable discharge, you are able, well, let me rephrase that. If you have any other discharge aside from a dishonorable discharge, you have benefits that could be used, right? Now, if you have a bad conduct discharge or an other than honorable discharge, you're not going to be able to use and submit for those benefits right away. You're going to have to get those discharges upgraded, and to get those discharges upgraded, they upgrade in succession. So if you have a bad conduct discharge, you're going to have to get that upgraded to an OTH, and then from there you're going to have to get that OTH upgraded to a general before you could actually submit for benefits, right? So that can be timely, that can be lengthy, because just even submitting to the board of, I believe it's veterans, I'm not exactly sure, it's depending on your branch, they have different boards for where you could submit to get your discharge upgraded, but those processes are pretty lengthy. So especially if you're trying to come from a bad conduct discharge, because you're going to have to do that process twice before you're able to get any benefits, before you're even able to apply for benefits. So if you have a honorable discharge, obviously, and if you have a general discharge, you are able to automatically right out the gate apply for VA disability benefits. So for one, if that's your pretty much your situation, you don't want to waste your time by going through that whole process trying to submit, only to find out that you're not yet ready to submit, or yet eligible to submit. So for one, make sure you know what your eligibility are. If you got a honorable discharge, then obviously you have nothing to worry about. You're eligible to go ahead and submit right away. Same thing with a general. So anything other than that, it can be kind of hazy for you, except for probably like administrative or something like that. You should be good, but I'm not exactly sure on that. But you guys, I know for sure, general and honorable, you are good to go right the next day. As soon as you get out, you can go the next day and submit for benefits with a general discharge and with an honorable discharge, of course. So Just know that. All right, so now that you know that what you need before you submit, now the next thing you want to know is that VA language and how the VA works and how the VA thinks and how the VA rates your claim, right? So you're going to get out and you're going to have an injury that happened in service and you're going to want to claim it. And so you're going to submit your claim and you're going to provide your proof pretty much to the VA, right? So you're going to be saying that, hey, this injury happened in service during my active duty time, and because of it, now I'm affected in this way. So that's what your claim is going to pretty much be saying and be be claiming. So that's what you want the VA to rate you for. So the best thing to do is to help the VA find all of that information and make it as easy as possible on them, so that they don't have to do a whole lot of work. Because you got to take in mind that they're dealing with millions of other veterans that's been out for years, veterans that are just getting out. They're dealing with all the fraud cases. They're dealing with all of the appeals, all of this stuff, right? It's a whole bunch of stuff. It's backlogged like crazy. So to think that they're going to go and give you preferential treatment or special looks or anything like that it's not going to happen. So make sure that you guys know that prior to going in. That's not how the VA works. They're not looking to really help you out. It's kind of a document intake system. They're going to take in the information that you give them, and they're going to rate it based off of that. Now, you do have a standard claim to where you're going to go where you will have the VA reach out and get all that information for you. My opinion is I will go the fully developed claim route, which is the route where you gather the information for the VA, and then you submit all the information that you're claiming for, all the support information that you're claiming. You're going to give that directly to the VA, and then you're going to have to certify that everything that you have is complete and accurate, and you don't have anything else to submit. But for me, I prefer that, because now you're putting more control on yourself, as opposed to hoping that someone at the VA is really going to be diligent about your claim, which is just not going to happen, because like I said, the backlog is so crazy. Literally, they don't have the personnel, manpower, man hours to dedicate to one service member's claim. You know what I mean? 'Cause who to say that one service member's claim is more important than the next? So you're just not going to get that type of treatment from the VA, thinking that, hey, let me just submit a generic claim, let me just submit a vague claim, and think that just because I'm a service member, I served, that the VA is going to jump through hoops to make sure my claim is processed correctly. It's just not going to happen. I'll tell you right now, the VA has about an 80+ error rate. So a lot of the claims that are getting submitted in there are not going to get rated correctly. Even though it warrants a disability rating, it's still not going to get correct. It's still not going to get rated correctly, if rated at all. A lot of times people's claims going to get denied because the VA is not really looking into it heavily, or the information that was provided wasn't clear enough for the VA to look at it and say, hey, okay, this meets all the criteria to give it a rating. So it's really on you to be diligent about that, and be diligent about your claim and all the information that you gather, because it happened. So you should be really the number one person on tracking down all of that information. If you had any outside doctor visits or anything like that, you'd have that information, So again, to my active duty service members, if you guys are in and you guys are getting hurt, you guys want to make sure that you guys are taking care of your medical records and keeping copies of all of that stuff. It's some adult stuff that you have to do, but you have to do it if you want to claim any type of benefits when you get out, because it's cutthroat, and if you don't have the proof, it's not going to happen. So it's just one of those things you have to do. So anything you do, make sure you're making your own copies of it, and keep copies, digital copies of it, so that you can find it easily when you need it. Other than that, you're gonna have a nightmare dealing with the VA and trying to get all of your stuff accurately rated, and even the attention that it should deserve is probably not gonna get. Okay, so in order to help you out in that area, you guys want to get into the 38 CFR. 38 CFR is the publication that helps the VA raters and how they're going to rate you. So say for instance, you have a back injury where you have limited mobility, the CFR will tell you based off of how limited your mobility is, how much disability compensation you warrant, you know? So say for instance, you only can bend your back, you can't bend all the way over, you only can bend over 20 degrees or whatever, right? Say whatever, I'm not sure what the degrees is, but let's just say 20. You can't bend or extend beyond 20 degrees. So say the CFR would tell you right then, if you can't bend beyond a certain point, you know, rate this service member or veteran at 20% or 30% or whatever have you the percent, right? There's other things that's based off your treatment. So if you had treatment and the treatment didn't work, or you were prescribed a particular dosage of medicine for a certain amount of time, you know, because of that, it's already prescribed in the 38 CFR that rate this veteran at this rate. So if you already know, and you already been through any type of treatment, already been diagnosed, already been prescribed medicine, and you already know how that procedure goes, it's just easier for you to go ahead and map that out. You know, you want to write that out and write out exactly how everything goes, how you feel about it, you know, any type of moods that it puts you in, you know, are you depressed because of it, anything that comes along with that. You want to map that down so you can paint that picture for the VA, so when they're reading it, they know exactly what you're going through, you know. So if you just say, hey, my back hurts, and you know, when they go and schedule you for your CMP exam, you know, you go in there and everything looks fine that day, because you know, things happen like that. Maybe you just have a good day and your back is fine that day, and that's all they're going to see. That's all the VA doctor is going to have to report on, is that, hey, you looked fine, your mobility was fine. But what he didn't see is that, hey, maybe you get back spasms, you know, randomly, you know, or, you know, stuff like that. So if that type of stuff is happening, like latent conditions based off of that follows a condition, you want to make sure you guys, for one, are jotting that stuff down, and for two, letting the doctors know when you guys actually have your doctor follow-ups while you're in service, as well as your CMP and veteran exams when you're outside of service too. So that brings me to the next thing, is make sure you guys are watching what you say when you guys are inside of these doctor visits. I do suggest going to all follow-ups, especially if you're active duty military, because that's just going to show more continuity with the condition or injury. It's going to show that it's going to be another visit, another doctor visit. So when you go and actually submit for your claim, it's not going to be like a one-time, hey, he hurt his back, he only went there one time, then 4 years passed and he's never gone again, you know. So you want to go to your doctor visits and your follow-ups, and if you do have conditions, even if you don't have follow-up scheduled and your back is giving you persistent problems, you want to make sure that you actually schedule doctor visits. Do not be a tough guy. It's not going to help you in the long run, I promise you. So if you guys are hurt, go to medical. Just take care of yourself. Don't be dumb. Go to medical, take care of yourself. It's going to be what saves you in the long run, because you're going to have that record of those doctor visits. But what I was saying, make sure you guys watch what you're saying in those doctor visits, because everything that you're saying can be recorded. So for instance, if you're going into a visit for, say you were playing basketball on the weekend and you hurt yourself, and you go into the doctor's on Monday and you say, hey doc, man, I hurt my back, I just wanted to come in for a checkup to see if I was fine. I think I'm good. I played basketball on the weekend on Saturday, I got back up on Sunday and I was fine, and everything is fine now, but I just want to check up, right? So you just said you're fine a couple times in there. So the corpsman or the medic or whoever's doing the patient check-in, they're going to be writing that stuff down. So if you're saying that you're fine, they're going to be writing that stuff down. You may not even know that it's in there. So when you go and try to claim your benefits later on, it's going to show on your medical records that a patient said they did have this injury, but state that they're fine. So if you don't have anything besides that after you're saying you're fine, it's going to look like the last time you went to the doctor you were fine. So you want to make sure that you're watching what you say in there. And I know a lot of times people go into the doctor and it's that awkward moment between you and the doctor, or between you and a corpsman, and you're not exactly sure what to say. So you're just giving small talk, but you want to make sure you watch what you're saying in that small talk, because that stuff is being recorded, and it can potentially come back and bite you later on, you know. So I'm not saying that they're out to get you, because I don't think that's what the case is. It's just, you know, part of their protocol, And really, it's necessary because, like I said, there are a lot of fake claims out there as well too. But what I see too often, I did it myself. You know, you go into the doctor's office and you're talking to the doctor, and they say, "Oh, how you doing today?" And you're like, "Oh, I'm fine." And you may really be fine, but you want to make sure that you emphasize that you do go through the pain and the struggles that you do go through, and you want to make sure that you document the frequency, and you want to make sure that the doctor has a good comprehension of what you are trying to explain, right? Because I could tell you with my plantar fasciitis and the way that it was onset, I mean, I'm not sure exactly how this doctor didn't know, but the doctor, when I gave him my symptoms for plantar fasciitis, he told me that he had never heard of it before. He had told me that what I was describing actually should have been the opposite of what I was describing, because my feet was hurting in a way that he said shouldn't have hurt, which, you know, so it was weird. So I was kind of frustrated with that, and yeah, but I did make sure that, you know, I explained to him that, you know, because I was actually kind of offended. I felt like he, you know, the way he was kind of putting it, it would almost seem like he was saying that I wasn't being truthful with the way I was describing my injury. But, you know, after a long time just discussing it with him and showing him, you know, my day, letting him know how I work, you know, I was able to explain to him. Actually, I didn't. I actually ended up getting referred out into town. I was in Honolulu. I got referred out into town. I went to go see a podiatrist, and he was the one who actually diagnosed me with plantar fasciitis, because the doctor on base, he did not, he actually told me that he never heard of the symptoms being onset the way that I describe them. So you just never know with the military sometimes too, but you got to make sure that you guys are being diligent with them and just making sure they understand. You know, you don't have to be rude with them or anything like that, but just make sure they understand what you're going through, because, you know, a lot of the times these doctors, they see a lot of patients, so their remedies and their advice is going to be real cookie cutter. But if you know that your symptoms and everything that you're dealing with is, you know what you're dealing with. So, you know, just explain it truthfully to them and let them know what you're dealing with. And if you feel like, you know, the doctors aren't, you know, for whatever reason, believing you or, you know, being helpful, then just request to get a change of your primary care physician. So you could always request it. It's not necessarily going to happen, but you can try to request it, especially if you feel that you're not getting a fair shake on, you know, what you're looking for. So just that's something to keep in mind with the doctors and with the you know, dealing with getting everything put inside of your medical record accurately. Because if it's not accurate, it's not going to happen. If you're not going to have that nexus, it's not going to happen. And so to all my veterans too, so if you guys don't have that information inside of your medical record, make sure you guys are getting that nexus statement. All that nexus statement does is is telling how you were affected by the injury that you're claiming. So if you have a back injury that you say you claimed, and the nexus statement is just saying, hey, this guy used to work like this, and now this guy, you know, he has to take frequent breaks, or he has to sit down, or he has to stretch out his back, or he can't work a full day, or, you know, just anything like that that shows what the effect of that injury was to you once after you had it. So make sure that you guys, you veterans, if you guys don't have actual diagnosis and stuff in your medical records, that you guys get that. You guys can get the diagnosis potentially, especially if you have the actual condition, you know, by going to private doctors out in town. Now it's going to cost you a little bit more because you're going to have to go through, you know, your own means as far as getting to the doctor. It's not going to be through the VA, or it's not going to be through the military. But yeah, if you get an outside doctor to look into your condition, if they give you a diagnosis too, now you can have that diagnosis. Now it's going to be a little bit harder for you, because you're going to have to prove that that same diagnosis was present when you were in service for your veterans, right? So that's why I mentioned to the active duty guys initially first, hey, it's a lot of value in being active duty still before you guys get out, especially if you're going to submit for a VA disability claim, because you guys could straighten all of this stuff out before you guys get out. Veterans, you guys don't have that luxury. So you guys want to make sure if you guys go out and you guys go to a primary physician out in town, that they're being accurate as well, but it's still going to be hard to get that nexus. So you're going to require a buddy statement, someone saying that, hey, this was an issue for this guy while he was present. I served with him. I know that he went through this every day, so that, the VA could potentially tie it together and give you your rating. That's what a lot of people are dealing with because they didn't go to medical. So make sure you guys are taking care of yourselves on that one. If you're somewhere away from base and you get hurt, you guys can still claim that. So still go to medical. Don't think that you guys can't go to medical for that stuff. It's all claimable as long as you're still under your full active duty contract. Every injury that you get hurt for within the while under that contract is claimable under the VA. If it's diagnosed. So don't shortchange yourself. Now once your claim is filed, you're going to have some patience because it's going to take a while. Typically, if you file a standard claim where you have the VA do all the research and gather all the information for you, it's going to take you roughly 300 something days, that process, so almost a year before you even hear anything back probably from the VA. And the VA is not going to rush to get your stuff taken care of. They're not going to make sure it's accurate. They're just going to go and do the basic their basic due diligence that they're required by law to help service you and help you with your claim. Now, if you go to fully developed claim route, that's going to take you roughly about 130 to 140 days to get a response back from the VA. That's still a long time. That's about 4 months, 4 to 5 months, but it's a lot better than a year. So, and that's when you actually providing all the information for the VA yourself. You're going to go out, you're going to get all your medical records, you're going to go out, you're going to get all your civilian records, you're going to compile all that stuff together, you're going to get your buddy statements and all that stuff that you're going to submit through the va.gov, and you're just going to essentially wait for the VA to get back to you and let you know what they think, based off of all your information. But, for me, I feel like that's the route that you should definitely go, because you know what you're doing and you're putting in all that information. You're not relying on somebody to do that for you. If you're relying on somebody to do that for you, you're running the risk of somebody not caring, because it's not their claim, so why would they really care? For you, you're going to go that extra mile, or at least I hope you will go that extra mile for your claim to make sure that the stuff is accurate, that everything is listed in there properly, and that you're submitting everything and directing the VA's eyes directly to what you want them to see. Because if not, it's a toss-up, and then whatever happens is whatever happens, and most likely you're going to end up being angry. So just make sure that you guys are, once you submit your claim, that you're going to your CMP exams. They're going to mail you. They're going to give you something in the mail that's going to tell you when your CMP exam is. A CMP exam is your compensation and pension exam. And that's when you're going to go in there, and the doctor is just going to essentially look you up and down based off of the claim that you're submitting. So if you claim your back, they're going to do back tests to make sure, just pretty much not to make sure you're good, but they're just going to do an assessment. It's kind of like a diagnostic, and they're just kind of doing an observation on you, right? So when you go to those exams, it's not like a doctor visit. So they're not going to tell you anything that's going to help you out with your claim. They're not going to tell you anything that you need to do. They're literally just going to go and ask you to do things, and they're going to monitor your movement. So if you're saying your back is hurting, you can't bend beyond whatever, you can't bend to 90 degrees at the waist, they're going to have you do it. They're going to measure you, and they're going to see exactly where you are, and they're going to measure things like your comfort level and see if you're squinting or wincing or doing anything that causes any type of uncomfort while you're doing the motions that they're asking you to do. And all of this stuff gets noted, right? So then based off of that CMP exam, they're going to get it back to the rater, and then the rater is going to go off of the doctor's recommendation. And if the doctor recommends or says that you actually have a condition or something, they'll rate you based off of the scale that this 38 CFR tells them how to rate you. So that can be anywhere from 0 to 100%. So if you get a 0% rating, you may be irritated by that, but a 0% rating is a lot better than a full-out denial. A full-out denial means you're not going to get any benefits for it, and that you either have to submit for you're gonna have to appeal that in order to get it to get that decision changed. Now, if you get a 0% rating, it's 0%. It's not compensable, meaning they can't pay you. But eventually, say for instance, that's the VA acknowledging that there was an incident that happened in service that the VA is saying that it's compensable, but right now it's at a 0% rating, meaning they won't pay you. But over time, if you can prove that injury is getting worse and worse over time, since it did happen in service and the VA acknowledges that it happens in service, they will pay you for it if you submit for an increase later on over time. So that's why the 0% rating is a lot better than the actual full out denial. Because a full out denial, you're gonna have to appeal and say, no, I feel like I should rate some type of disability rating because of XYZ. And then you're gonna have to go through the channels necessary to prove that. And if you go through appeal, that's gonna take months to years to deal with, lawyers possibly, and all of that stuff. So a 0% rating it's no money, but it's definitely more promising, because once you go for that, it's a lot easier to submit for a rating increase than it is to submit an appeal. So you guys want to make sure that if you get that rating, I mean, yeah, it's irritating because you obviously feel that you're going to rate something more than that, but just know the difference between the two. A 0% rating is far better than a full out denial. So, all right, so once you go to your CMP exam, you're gonna have to do that waiting game, and then wait to see what the VA is gonna rate you after that. So they're gonna get you. It all depends. Like really, once you're gonna go, and your status is gonna change in VA.gov, and you're gonna sit there and you're gonna wait, and you're gonna look for months and weeks and months and possibly years. Hopefully not, but eventually your status will change, and it'll show you where you are in the process. And then at some point you'll get a rating decision, and then in the mail you're going to get a whole full packet that's going to show you what of everything that you submitted for, what's going to get approved and what's going to get denied and why. So that's important, because once you get a denial, they'll either flat out deny you and say that you didn't have enough evidence for it, or they'll tell you exactly why the denial was. Or they'll deny you, and then they'll give you something at the bottom. It's like a small paragraph that says favorable findings, which are things that kind of show you, okay, yeah, your claim got denied, but you have things in here that are favorable. So kind of like, explore this area, and then when you resubmit, you could possibly get a rating for that, right? So say for instance, maybe you have one of the three elements inside of your claim, right? So say for instance, the VA says they're going to deny you for your back injury, but they're going to acknowledge that the injury did happen in service, right? So the injury did happen in service, but they're denying you because they're saying that that injury isn't severe enough to rate any type of rating at all, not even a percentage. So they're going to deny you. So that sucks, but they're letting you know, hey, favorable findings. Hey, it did happen in service. So that way, next time before you go submit, I know for a fact that this happened in service. So now what I need to work on is the severity. So over time, if the severity happens, like I said before, they've already acknowledged that it happened in service, even though they gave you a denial, not a 0%. So that way, when you submit, you can redirect their eyes back to the fact that they already acknowledged that, hey, this did happen in service. Now, with the more severe condition, possibly you can get your rating increased. So you know what I mean? So it's kind of like that. It's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle playing with them, and you gotta be patient and you have to be smart. You know what I mean? So if you go in there assuming that the VA is just gonna help you out with your claim, and they're gonna move mountains and search for needles and haystacks for your claim specifically, it's not gonna happen. You're gonna end up with a denial. You're gonna end up mad. You're gonna end up like everybody else who says, hey, the VA process doesn't work. And it's not really meant to work for you, but if you help yourself, they will help you out. If you help them help you, you will find that you're kind of rewarded in spades for doing so, because most people are not gonna help the VA help them, because a lot of people, honestly, a lot of veterans, I mean, I hate to say it, a lot of veterans are entitled, and we feel like, hey, we served, so where's the service? But I mean, really, like I said, now that you're out of the service, now you're in a pool in the VA world. You're a drop of water in an ocean. You know, there's a whole bunch of other veterans too, different war eras, all that type of stuff, that all feel that they have priority for whatever reason with the VA. So they're dealing with that. So with your incidents and everything that you come in with, you know, it's just not a priority. So to think that is, you know, is detrimental to your success. So for one, is that mindset is just makes you got to be diligent. You have to be on top of your stuff. You almost have to be like a lawyer with your stuff. So you want to make sure, you want to think about all the different type of ways that they'll try to deny your stuff. Because the VA they'll go real hard trying to deny your claim. They're not going to go real hard trying to help you prove out your stuff unless you help them prove it out. You know what I mean? So if you put them in that corner to where they can't see anything else beyond any type of doubt, they're just seeing, hey, okay, this person is directing my eyes here. They're saying that this incident happened. It did happen. It's diagnosed. They're saying that it happened within their active duty service time. They're showing me that it did, and they're showing me how they're affected by it. You know what I mean? They're giving me all of that to where I can't really backpedal. You're going to get a more favorable result, as opposed to saying, hey, here I got hurt. I'm not going to show you when. I'm not going to show you where. I just got hurt, so rate me. You know what I mean? So just think about it like that. Think if somebody gave you information like that, and they required you, one person gave you pretty much everything to look for and it was factual, and the other person just said, hey, this happened, go find it in all of my stuff and help me out. Which one you're going to be more likely to help out? The one who helped themselves, as opposed to the one who wanted you to do all the work for them. So it's just something to think. It's just your mindset. If you go in there with that mindset, you go in there with that type of diligence, you're gonna see some successes as opposed to those who don't. So that's what I want you guys to think about first and foremost, because if not, I'm telling you, it's gonna be a detriment. And I don't want to see you guys out there thinking that the VA is just, you know, out to get you. The system is definitely flawed, but you guys can beat it. You know, you guys can beat it. And so once you guys get that message back from the VA, that letter back from the VA that says whether or not you have a rating or not, or whatever, right? Most likely that rating, even if you do get a rating, most likely that rating is going to be inaccurate. It's going to be probably a lowball rating. So, because that's just, like I said, like the VA, that's just how the VA does. And you got to take in mind how many people are probably going to just get that rating and accept it because they know that the VA claims process is a monster, and they say, hey, I got a rating. I'm not even going to try to go back through that process. I'm just going to leave it alone, and I'm going to accept that rating, right? Because one thing you guys may not know is every time you open yourself up to a VA claim rating, you open yourself up to potentially getting whatever rating you may have reduced. So, for instance, say if you're sitting at 90% like I am, right? And I'm going for that last 10%. When I submit my claim for whatever I'm claiming for that last 10%, yeah, I may get that rating, I may get that percent for it, but something else that I claimed in my record, another injury or another condition that I have in my rating, the VA may look at it and say, well, hey, I think this person has gotten better from this, so I'm going to reduce you here. So you could potentially wind up with less than you actually started it with when you went for your increase. So it's really, really important to make sure that you guys know that. So like I was saying, like when you get your claim back the first time, most likely it's not going to be accurate. It's probably going to be lowball. So just make sure you guys going back. You guys can always go back for a higher level review for the rating increase. And if you're diligent with yours and you're showing the VA that they made a mistake, or you're showing the VA that you have evidence to the contrary of what they're saying, just as long as it's clear and concise, you should be fine. So, just make sure you guys aren't submitting your claims based off of emotion, because if you do, it's going to be, you're going to be mad all the time, because you're going to be submitting your claims based off of what you think you should get as opposed to the facts. And the VA don't care about what you think you should get. It's just what it is, right? So you think that you deserve whatever you think you get, and the VA don't care about that, right? Show the VA the facts that you actually deserve that. Show the VA the facts that you actually put those put that case together and give it to them, and you'll be rewarded. Honestly, you'll be rewarded. Not always. There's a lot of people not getting what they deserve with the VA. You know, there's a lot of people not getting what they deserve, and going through the right channels as well too. So, you know, it's always a toss up with the VA. So you just never really know. But my philosophy is, if you go in there with knowledge and you go in there better than the next man, you know, you're just gonna set yourself up that much better for success with your outcome. Because if not, it's just especially for those who haven't been through it, you guys don't know, the VA is a nightmare. It's not the best place to it's not the best place for your mental health. I will say. So going forward, make sure that everything that's in your in that letter, that VA letter, is telling you guys what you guys need to do, and that you guys are listening to whatever it's telling you to do. So your favorable findings, all your denials, all your increases and stuff like that. Get back into that 38 CFR, and then pretty much you're going to point out to them where they're making a mistake at. Because you're going to notice, especially in the favorable findings, I have a bunch in my own VA letters that the favorable findings are contradictory to the denial, right? So they'll deny you for something, but then in the favorable findings section, they'll tell you that you have it in your record. So essentially they'll say, hey, we're denying you because you don't have this in your record, but your favorable findings say, hey, you have this in your record. So that's how screwed up the VA process is, right? So it's kind of like a paper job. It's just kind of going through there, and maybe it's getting read, maybe it's not, you know. So when you get your favorable findings back, especially favorable findings, you guys want to look at them and scrutinize everything in there and make sure that they're not denying you for something that you actually put in there, because it's pretty common. And if they do, you just want to submit back and show them, hey, you're denying me for something that you're saying that I already have in there. So hopefully they can get that turned around. If not, you may have to go through the appeals process, unfortunately. And then that appeals process, you're dealing with the Board of Veteran Appeals, the BVA, and that process can go years, you know. So once you're dealing with that, you know, that's a whole different monster. You're saying that the VA, you don't agree with the VA for whatever reason, you're going to file your notice of disagreement and all that stuff, and you're going to appeal the decision, and that's going to take a long time, you know. And I don't want you guys to be in a position to where you're appealing a denial because you didn't do the right stuff from the beginning. So, I mean, I get it. Sometimes you're going to have to appeal. Sometimes that's just the case. Sometimes the VA is just not going to see things your way, and they're not going to give you the benefits for it. And so you're going to have to appeal, and you're going to have to go through that long waiting process. But if that's the case, you should be doing that because of a legitimate reason, not because from the beginning you messed up on something that you could have easily studied, researched, and not made that mistake on. You know, you don't have to take years off your life, years off of this process, years off your money that you deserve because you did the wrong thing. So just make sure you guys are getting that book, mainly that CFR, that 38 CFR, and just know what section of the body you're claiming and how that all works and how that all ties in too. And also know about VA math and how VA math works, because VA math will make you mad because 1 + 1 don't equal 2 with VA math, right? So say for instance, so if you looked into my VA record, disability record particularly, you will see that I am technically 160%, but based off of how VA math works, I'm only really 90%. So I'll need a whole nother 30% to actually get to 100%. And I know that sounds confusing, but that's something that I'll go into in a later video. But VA math, that's something that you definitely should know and understand, because just because you got 50% for this rating here and 50% for another rating right here, and that adds up to 100, that doesn't mean that you're going to get 100. So make sure you guys know that stuff, because it'll really anger you. So the more you know, the more headaches you can save yourself, and just the better off you'll be in that process when it comes to trying to navigate through the VA process, because it's crazy. After that, I would say pretty much it's just, like I said, a waiting game. Hopefully you get something that's beneficial. If not, yeah, you're going to have to file that NOD, or you're going to have to file for a higher level review. Now, if you get your stuff back and they're saying they're flat out denying you for stuff that you know that is that you have, right? Just go to a private doctor. You're going to go to your private doctors, and especially if you have an ongoing condition that you're dealing with a private doctor, you're going to already have that stuff documented. So you're just going to want that provide that updated information and resubmit it back up to the VA. Particularly though, what you want to do is have a doctor do a DBQ on you, which is a disability questionnaire, and that's pretty much going to zero in on a particular part of your body that you're claiming, and it's going to go into details with the VA language. The doctor already knows VA language. Well, hopefully the doctor knows VA language, right? So not all doctors are well versed in doing DBQs. So if your primary care physician doesn't do that, you may have to actually find a doctor who specializes in DBQs or understands how to do it. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a specialty, but some doctors know how to do it, some of them don't. So you want to find a doctor that knows how to do DBQs. You want to get with them so they can fill it out, and once they fill that out, then you're going to resubmit you're going to submit for a higher level review or a rating increase, and you're going to submit that DBQ with it. And that's going to have your doctor stamp and showing that, hey, everything they're saying or everything that you're claiming is actually true. And then from there, the VA rater will go off of that doctor's recommendation and hopefully give you a rating increase that is more suitable to what you want. It's not always a guarantee, and not always doctors. Some doctors are really reluctant to doing that because, for whatever reasons, people may try to get them to do that for fraudulent reasons. I know there are doctors who have been flagged for doing that for veterans, where they may be embellishing the truth of the injuries and stuff like that. So I know some doctors may have their reservations about doing that because they don't want to get necessarily roped in with the other doctors that have been flagged for doing that. But yeah, if you can find a doctor who is willing to write up a DBQ statement for you and submit that to the VA, that is power right there. That is what is going to get your rating increase. That's the strategy you want to use as far as going to getting your rating increase. If you have already gotten either a denial or anything like that, or not so much a denial, but if you got any type of low rating that you feel that you should get a higher rating for. And once you get into the 38 CFR, it's gonna show you all of the different ratings, like the max rating for whatever condition you're claiming, right? So say you got a knee injury and it goes up to 50, it'll say the max is 50. So that means you can get rated anywhere, maybe 10, 20, 30, or 50. Or your back, is rated 50, so you may get 20. So if you feel like you got a 20% rating and you feel like you deserve a 50, and you go to your doctor and your doctor's saying, well, hey, based off of the VA, they're saying if you don't have this much movement, then you should get a 50. And I'm seeing right now that you don't have this much movement, so you should get a 50. They're going to write that for you, submit it to the VA, and then hopefully the VA bounce that off of the 38 CFR, and then you get the rating you deserve. Now, once you do that too, that's the good thing about the VA, is the VA will pay you retroactively. So so that's why you want to make sure that you're doing this. So even when you first submit your claim, so say you submit your claim today is June 8th, 2020. So say you submit your claim today, it's going to be timestamped for June 8th. It's going to be timestamped for June. So that means once you actually get a rating for your disability, it'll be for the month following the month that you actually submitted for. So you submitted in June, so you'll get paid from July 1st on. So even if you don't get rated until, let's say, next June of 2021, you'll get paid all the way from July of 2020 retroactively. So you'll get all of that back pay. Same with if you get a rating, say you get a rating and then you submit for an increase. From the day you submit for your increase, you're going to get back paid from that day. So that's really good. So you guys, especially if you guys have claims that you guys submitted a long time ago that got 0% ratings or whatever, right? Once you guys resubmit, it's going to be from that resubmit date, not from that initial date. So just make sure you guys know that. So don't be expecting that you're going to be getting something from 5 years ago when you only resubmitted it for an increase, or say you're not going to get increase from something from a year ago if you only submitted it 6 months ago, right? Because you only have a certain amount of time to file an appeal after. So you got that year after your actual disability claim. After the VA actually gives their decision, you have a year to appeal it. If you don't appeal it, you're essentially saying that, hey, you agree with the VA, and that's going to be a finalized. That's going to be their finalized rating. So that's important to know too. So make sure you guys are paying attention to that. Make sure you guys are taking care of yourself out there. Okay. Other things before I go. This process is not easy by no means. It's daunting. It's really easy to get down and just say, hey, this process isn't going to work. I'm going to give up. I don't want to do it. It's stupid. All the things. I'm telling you, I went through all of those motions. Granted, I was less than a year, so really in hindsight, it wasn't that bad. But when you're checking va.gov or e-benefits every day and you're not seeing any type of movement, and you don't even know if anybody's thinking about you, your mind starts to play those tricks on you. It's like you start to think, at least me, I was like, damn, there are millions of other vets out there. Why would they be looking at mine right now? And then, eventually I just started seeing where my stuff was moving up fast in the process. And, and I attribute that to being so thorough in my processing, making sure that I knew what was going on, make sure I knew how the VA process worked, make sure I knew how my ratings worked, make sure I knew how, when I went into my CMP exam, how to conduct myself in the CMP exam, how to get all my medical records prior to me getting out, talk to the VA before I get out, because all of this stuff is going to be new. So for all you guys that are still in, make sure you guys are using those resources while you're still in. And for the veterans, there are resources out there too. You guys can always go to, you guys want to go to the VA. They do have VSOs and stuff like that can help you guys out, and they're really good. They give you really good information. It's just about listening and following it, and not jumping the gun, because I know this process is something that you really want to jump into when you're actually doing it. But if you're not listening to it, you're going to make a mistake that's going to come back and bite you, and you're going to end up paying for it with your time. So make sure that the best piece of advice I can give you is really read and pay attention to what they're asking you, because they're not necessarily being tricky with the words, but if you're hasty, it's not going to benefit you, I'll say, because it's just not going to benefit you, because you're going to end up missing a step, and that one misstep with the VA is going to cost you time, months, possibly years. So other than that, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna come out with some more videos soon, a little bit more granular videos about the actual steps and process and how to do what, going on to e-benefits and actually making that account. And because e-benefits is going to be your hub for all of this stuff, how you submit for all your benefits, even your post 9/11 benefits. They should be telling you that stuff at your TAPS, your TGPS classes. I know those things are packed full of information, but they should definitely be telling you about that. They should actually have you sign up for e-benefits before you leave out of your TAPS class. And but yeah, it's going to be your hub for all your stuff, where you're going to submit for all your benefits. So you want to make sure that you have that account. Other than that, I'm gonna end it right here. Thank you guys for staying with me. Other than that, have a good one, and good luck to you guys on your VA disability claims. Nate, I'm out.